Hello, I'm Marcus T. Anthony. Welcome to the 5-Minute Mystic, and this is the YouTube channel where I attempt to answer any of your questions to do with modern mysticism or spirituality. I wear a number of hats. One of them is as a modern mystic. I've explored spirituality and meditative states over a number of years, and I don't like to talk about this. This is just a secret between you and me because I'm an academic on the side. But some years ago I had a spiritual awakening, and that included developing quite a bit of intuitive ability and being clairvoyant. So what I do is I help people understand questions that are generally about the nature of spirituality and mysticism, but I also have personal questions. Now today I'm answering the second part of a query by Penny. I answered the first part of it last time, and you can go back and find it on via this little short link here, or you can go back through my YouTube channel and find it. It's called something like Penny, Help, I'm Afraid of My Own Shadow. She asked about whether we should explore the shadow side. In the first video I answered the part about the more traditional way of looking at the shadow, which is just exploring the psyche. In the second part I'm talking about consciousness fields, and especially those that are darker, so what I call the darkness. Now, there's some good news and some bad news here. Okay. Well, the bad news is that the darkness does actually exist. Good news is the light does exist. And these are all actually part of one continuum or spectrum of energy, or consciousness if you like. And this is my personal understanding from what I've explored with spirit. So if you find someone else with a different answer, by all means explore their particular philosophies or beliefs, but this is what I've come to understand. And there's not too many people in the world that have explored these things at the depth that I have. That's not some sort of a boast, it's just that I spent thousands and thousands of hours doing this kind of stuff. So the first question for Penny here is, or the answer, or part of the answer for Penny is, what is darkness? Well, darkness is just, I like to think of it as a kind of attractor field. In physics, there's this idea of attractor fields, that like energy attracts. And as far as I can tell, consciousness, when it works, gravitates towards other fields or realms of consciousness, acts like an attractor field. So it attracts like to like. The physics of this is not understood because science hasn't really explored this in depth, and the mechanisms are not understood. It doesn't necessarily correspond to the foreknown forces of physics, gravity, electromagnetism, and the weak and the strong forces. I can say that pretty certainly because I know that these attractive fields in the darkness, as I call it, operate beyond the realms of local space, and also they transcend time. And this is also consistent with much of the research in parapsychology. So what I call the darkness seems to operate somehow within the laws of physics. So it has an impersonal element to it. It's essentially impersonal. It's not like Satan in the Bible. Satan is supposed to be a demonic entity. As a collective, it's just an impersonal force. So if a particular group of people or an individual has issues to do with strong shame, anger, repressed darkness within themselves, they will tend to attract like energy. So that's pretty much how it works in a very simplistic form from what I've been able to see. Okay, but having said that, it does have a personal way of expressing itself, because the darkness, or these energy structures, channel through individuals. So they channel themselves through people like you and me. Okay, and some individuals have stronger issues within themselves to do with repressed anger, needs for control and power over other people, shame, sexual issues are very strongly correlated with dark energy, and they're the kind of people that tend to channel darkness the most. Okay, so quite literally, you might be scared of these people when you see them. There's kind of a sense, an intuitive sense that there's something not quite right. A lot of people who get into very powerful positions in society also channel strong dark energy. Okay. So there's a personal element to it as well. And I suppose there's one more bit of bad news I should tell you, and that is that
There are discarnate entities, which are not physical human beings, and they also channel dark energy as well. So these entities, they can be dead people, so people are no longer in the physical body. They can be entities from the astral plane, and all kinds of things. Look, I've dealt with some of these energies. I don't understand them all, and I doubt anyone really understands them. The universe is a big place. It's the physical universe, plus there's all these other entities and realms of existence which are barely physical. And who knows where it ends? I don't. So there are also non-physical entities that work through this. So there you go. You can panic if you like. So that's what it is. Now the next question is: should we explore these kinds of energies? So should we look at the darkness, so to speak? Well, I'll look at some benefits first of all. So the first benefit is that if you explore the darkness, just like exploring the shadow, you can get a deeper sense of your soul issues. Okay, because really the way that energy moves through your own mind, including consciousness fields, and the entangled way that, or the way that your mind entangles with other people, reflects your own soul issues, your codependence, your need for power and control over other people, the dramas that you get into try to unconsciously normally suppress your own deeper needs, or your own pain, your own anger, your own sadness. The way these interact with other people also often contain projections of consciousness fields. They normally have two expressions. The way that there's two main expressions of dark energy in that sense. The first one is really messaging. Okay, it's when you project a message at another person to try to control them in some way. Now, dark energy usually has an attempt to repress or belittle, to shame or control the other person. So you might be unconsciously sending a message to your partner. Okay, this is one example. Don't go out into the world. You stay here with me. I don't want you to get that job. No. If you get that job, you become too independent. So you can't get that job. You're stupid. You're ugly. Nobody wants you. So there may be a kind of mini drama coming from your own mind, trying to suppress another person's consciousness or psyche. So that would be a very good example of a projection or a messaging that comes from one person's psyche to another. And the psychic field around people is full of these kind of messages, and we all do it to each other. Okay, some of them can be very strong. Now the other kind of darkness projection is much more powerful. It's what I call possession. And it's when someone wants to control someone so much that part of their own consciousness or psyche actually overpowers the other person. So that they're basically under their control, indirectly. Not their movements, like you can't see hand up, down, or something like that. But unconsciously, they can be strongly manipulating their thoughts and feelings that are moving through their unconscious. And if you don't think this is true, well, be my guest, but unfortunately it's true. I've dealt with many possession issues in my own life. I've even possessed my own clients, I found, after dealing with them. You know, and luckily I have a bit of a capacity to be able to see these things, so I've been able to pull my energy out. Most people just do this. This goes on unconsciously, okay? And if you learn how to see these things and perceive these things, you can take more control, you can be more responsible for your own energy, and you can be more loving to other people because you won't be manipulating them or trying to control them or suppress them. Okay, so that's one good reason to be able to do this darkness work. You can work more. You can acknowledge the darkness within yourself and other people and take responsibility for it. Okay, and of course you can move deeply from that position. You can move deeply into your own issues, like inner child work, the emotional body, all these things that lie behind your desire to manipulate and control other people. Okay, for example, if you're trying to control your partner and keep them down, well, it might be because you're scared of being alone. Maybe your parents weren't loving enough. You don't feel safe in the world. So if you look behind your need to control someone else and the projections towards them, you will see some of these issues within yourself. And then you can go and work on your own emotional energy and your inner child work. Okay, and start to take more responsibility for that. Okay, and then the light starts to shine through you more. Okay, because when your own inner child or your hurt is not with you and it's out there in psychic space, that's it's not possible for the light to really shine through you. Okay, you become kind of ensnared in this kind of darkness. Okay, it also helps you, doing shadow work helps you to see very clearly when other people are trying to manipulate and control you. Because humanity, where it is in this time in history, is very much, we're pretty dishonest as a species. And it's just part of where we're at, okay? You know, it can be part of people's jobs, you know, like a salesperson, a used car salesman. You know, they have to try to manipulate people to some degree. Even school teachers, I've been a school teacher, sometimes you've got to tell little white lies to the class or try to encourage students and not tell them the complete truth. When you work with consciousness fields, you can see very clearly into other people's psyches once you develop that capacity. So you can tell when they're trying to manipulate you, even when they're not aware of it themselves. Because sometimes, most of the time actually, when people lie, they're lying to themselves, and they can't really see the truth within themselves. Okay, so that's one thing. You can see more clearly other people, including like politicians. I mean, everyone can see politicians are lying, but that's an obvious case. Okay, so what are some of the problems with looking at consciousness fields, including the darkness, at this level? Well, the biggest problem, I think, for everybody, including me, is that it can create a lot of fear. You know, it can be scary seeing this stuff, and it can be a real shock too, to see the darkness that lies within other people, including people you love. You know, and you think are good, all good, or you put them on a pedestal, and suddenly you see, well, there's darkness within all of us, and that and sometimes it can be quite scary. And sometimes we see that our relationships with other people are based on delusion. They're based on a kind of a mutual dysfunction. And you can see that more clearly when you look at the dark energy that moves through you. And as I mentioned, if you acknowledge darkness, you also see you can also perhaps see the discarnate enities or sense them around you. So that can be quite frightening. Okay. So you have been warned. That is the biggest problem. Now, if you do work with the darkness and you become very scared of everything, then it's kind of becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because darkness operates through fear. And so you're becoming more and more scared. So then you become more and more easy to manipulate, and your own consciousness field begins to drop into darkness. So what's the point of looking at the darkness if you just can become ensnared by it? So that's the main thing to really think about before you get into this kind of work. Okay, the next thing is, do you have the courage and commitment to really be able to do this? That's the real thing, because it does take a lot of courage and commitment. If you don't have a lot of courage and commitment, don't bother opening up all this kind of Pandora's box of dark energy. Okay. To be honest, I don't really encourage people to do this kind of work unless they really have a really good reason. And the main reason I think I was led into it in my own life, is because it's just a very, very strong requirement within my own spiritual journey, because I was quite ensnared in dark energy through I don't like to call it karma, because karma suggests punishment. It's through my soul story, which was, you know, all these issues of self-doubt and fear and self-rejection, and allowing myself to be overpowered and become a scapegoat for other people. And so it was necessary for my journey, in a sense, because I really needed to be able to look very deeply into the darkness. And so the kind of people I think that would benefit most from that are people like me, who have a very strong requirement for it, but also a very strong level of courage and commitment to see the truth, a very strong commitment within themselves. Okay, that's very important. And a related issue with the first thing I mentioned is that, now, what you focus upon expands. It's kind of a law of perception. What you focus upon expands. So if you make the mistake of focusing all your attention in your mind and your spiritual journey on trying to dig out the darkness, you know, in everything, then that's what will expand in your life. So once again, it becomes a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. You'll just be engulfed by the darkness. So don't make darkness the focus of your spiritual journey, okay? Explore it if you need to. So what should be the focus? The focus should be bringing yourself into presence, okay, into just a gentle presence, like a divine presence within your own body, And that's actually how you protect yourself from the darkness as well. Because, when you're fully in your body, you're present here in this moment, then you become largely impervious to the darkness. Okay. The trick, of course, is that to become really present, you've also got to look at your own darkness. So there's almost like a bit of a catch-22 there. Okay. But you don't necessarily have to make it the focus of the journey. So explore consciousness fields like this at your own peril. If you find you're getting stuck in them or you're becoming lost in fear, bring yourself back into deep presence. Okay? Focus on the breath. Bring yourself into your body through your breath. Bring your attention into focus with what is about you in the room. Okay? That's how you become present. Okay, so that's all for today for the 5-Minute Mystic. And please do send your questions in to me if you'd like me to answer them. And you can send them to this little address here on one of my websites. Thank you, and see you next time.